Hello and good morning, and welcome to our session on data handling with Google Forms and Google Sheets. It's really nice to be sitting here in the morning. Normally we're doing evening sessions for teachers, and this is a new series of sessions for support staff and office staff. So we hope you really enjoy these. We'll be asking you to leave feedback at the end, so please stay around till the end or watch out for the email after the session to allow you to leave some feedback about what you've seen today and maybe give us some ideas about other things that you would like us to provide for you. So my name's Wendy Pesquet and I'm a Google Certified Innovator and Trainer. And this is what we're going to do today, data collection with forms and sheets. We're going to be covering a few different things. We're going to look at forms first of all. This is a beginner session, so we'll be looking at creating a form from scratch. We'll be looking at the question types and how you use them. We'll be looking at adding images, viewing the responses when people have filled your form in, creating sections within your forms, branching so that you can take people to different sections of your form depending on the answer they choose, and look at some of the settings which will help you use it better within your organization and externally. And then we'll have a look a little bit at sheets as well. So we'll look at the responses that have been filled in on those forms. We'll export them to Google Sheets. And I'm just going to show you some basics today, but we're going to use Explore, which is Google's AI. So that's something that's really exciting. If you've never seen that before, you can see how you can automate things really easily and use some great features without understanding all the formula. But if you want to go a little bit more in depth, there's another session at 1 o'clock, and that's with Darren today, and that is just on Google Sheets. So this session is really introductory and just using Explore, and then Darren's one will take it a little bit deeper. So in Explore, we're going to look at linking charts. We'll do a bit of conditional formatting. We'll look at how you switch on email notifications and a really basic pivot table. And as I said, we're not learning all the functions for that. We're just going to use it through an automated area in Explore. Okay, so just in case you haven't noticed, Google G Suite has rebranded and the name for it now is Google Workspace. So where you used to see G Suite or Google Tools, you're now looking for Google for Education, Google Workspace. So that is just the same suite of tools, just with a rebrand. And if you're new to Google, these are some of the things that are in your Workspace for Education account. So when you sign up for a Google Workspace for Education account, you get things around managing your classroom. If you're a teacher, you've got Google Classroom and Google Forms where you can make automated quizzes and self-marking quizzes. But really, even Google Classroom for support staff can work really well. I've seen lots of teams use it to collate their team meeting notes and to organise specific projects. So don't just think of it as a teaching tool, can be used really effectively with support staff too. And then you've got the communication tools, you've got Gmail, Chat and Meet. So I'm sure you've been using a lot of that over the last few months. And then you've got all the tools at the bottom, which are Jamboard, Forms, Docs, Sheets, Slides, and Drive. And this is where you can collate and collaborate on any number of documents that you can use with your staff or with students. And then you've got some management tools, which are Keep and Calendar, that really keep you organized. And you've also got tasks on there as well, so you can build to-do lists and reminders. So that's the suite of Google Workspace for Education tools. That's the tools that you could be working with. So what we're going to do is I'm quickly just going to nip onto a different page. I'm going to get onto this one. I'm going to pull this out of the way. And I'm just going to start by showing you how to create a form from scratch. So I've got a number of forms we're going to create. First of all, I'm going to do a sort of really simple survey. So I'll just show you roughly what we're creating. I'm not making anything too fancy. I'm just making it so it's functional for today. But I'll talk to you about how you can brand it and make it a little bit more unique for your organization. So this is a real simple survey that we might send out to parents. I've condensed a couple of sort of surveys in one here just to give you a range of the tools that we could use. But we're going to ask the children's name and class, their mother or father, the relationship, and the sort of questions where people can give longer answers. And you'll notice I've put things in sections. We've got section 1, which is the details, section 2, which is about communication. And I've also then put some things about after school clubs, because that gives us a chance to use a different type of question. And then I've just added some stuff about the canteen just so I can put some pictures in. Okay, so you can see how that we could use pictures in a form. So if I was doing this for real and sending this out to parents, I'd sort of make sure my pictures were all the same size, but it's just to give you an idea of what you could do today. So that's the first form I'm going to create today. What I would say to you all is, if you can use the chat and want to say hello, please do that. And please ask questions all the way through. But if you can't use the chat for any reason, I'm putting a document in the chat at the moment, and that's a question and answer sheet. So if you've got any questions and you can't actually get onto YouTube chat, you can put those questions in there. Okay, so I've just popped this one in the chat for you. So hopefully you can get to that. And yeah, that's about it. We're going to get started. So let's have a look at the first form. So here I am. I'm in a Google Drive. Okay, it's a typical drive. If you've seen it before, all I need to look for is either my apps launcher. So I can look for my apps launcher here, and somewhere in here, it might not be in the same place, there'll be the icon for Google Forms. Or if you're like me, I slightly prefer to do it a different way. I like to make a folder. So I'm going to create a new folder at the moment. So go to new and create a folder. And I'm just going to put a folder for today's Google, can't even type now, Google Forms session. So I'm quickly going to create myself a folder so I'm not throwing stuff all over my drive. I'll open that one up. And the reason I'm showing you that is if you open up your folder where you want a form to be, or a document, or any sort of Google file that you create, you can then go to new, and you can also create the files from here as well under new. And notice you've got loads of more options here. You've got sites and Jamboard, but here you go, there's Google Forms, and I can open Google Forms straight into a folder so I know it's collated and not just thrown in my drive somewhere. So that's your first little tip that's really useful. And then if you've not seen Forms before, you'll see that it opens up with this sort of template look. It's quite straightforward. What you've got to see is, first of all, it's asking you to title it in 2 places. So I can choose either of those and just call it Survey for Parents. And if I've titled it here, this is the title on the actual form when somebody opens it, the equivalent of the header on a on a Word or Google Doc, the header, okay? So, and then if I want to click on here, it should pick up the same name, but this is the name that the document is actually called in your Google Drive. So if you're looking for it, if you're searching for it, that's what you'd be searching for. This is the title on the form itself. And then underneath, you've got the option to write a description. So the description can be, if for a survey, it will be, thank you for taking 5 minutes to complete the survey. We will use the data for that type of thing. So you would just speak quite casually to your audience and thank them for completing the form. Okay, so this is the first type, and this is a survey. And as a survey, as you know, it's just for gathering data, and there's loads of things you can do. We'll talk about the other sorts of things that you can collect data on in Forms in a little while. We'll just get cracking with this one first. And then underneath, you'll see there's a box. If I click on it, it expands, and this box is all about the first question. Okay, it's all about the first question. So where it says untitled question, that is actually my question. That's where I want to put the first one. So that's where I'm looking for. Let's make that a little bit bigger for you. So this is where I put my first question. And my first question is going to be child's name. So really straightforward. Okay, and what you should see, there you go. Did you notice that it changed from a multiple choice question automatically to a short answer question? Because wherever Google sees name written in there, it knows that you're asking someone to type something. So it's AI changes it. And the more you use Forms, the more you'll notice these little things that are really useful. So if I click on the question type here, you can see that I've got lots of different question types that I can use. We're going to use several of those in this survey. So that's a really simple one. Notice that it changes. Okay, now I'm not going to put these on, but this is something I would suggest you do for your forms, that where you see the word required, you make sure that you switch that on, and that means that somebody can't complete the form without filling it in. Okay, they can't miss questions out. It will stop before they try to submit it, and it will show them questions they haven't completed. So that's a really important one to put on for real if you're creating forms. Just while I'm demonstrating, I'm not going to put those on, because when I want to look at the preview, I want to be able to skip through questions quickly to show you. Okay, so notice also here I've got a delete button. I can delete things. You'll notice I can duplicate as well. So if I've got questions that are similar, I can just duplicate them. This icon is actually a third-party tool called Moat, where you can add audio feedback to your forms. I'm not going to cover that today, but it's there if you want to look in the Chrome store. You can try it out. And then you've got some extra tools under here, which we'll have a little look at later on. We're not going to look too in depth on those. So that's the first question. Let's make it a little bit smaller again. So I've added the first question, and then I want to create my second question. Notice the second question isn't there in the same way. So that's when I look at my toolbar here, and I've got a little toolbar, and the top one on there allows me to add a question. So there's a few things on here. I'll just mention them. Add question, import questions. I can add a title and description. I can add an image. I can add a video, and I can add sections. So they're my tools that I can use. Okay, so just for now, we want to add a new question. And just to let you know as well, if I'm clicked in a question and I click on the add question, it will put it underneath the one I'm clicked on. Okay, so I'll just show you that again. If I just put something in that one, but this time I click back on the child's name question, it's going to put the question now in between these two. So if you just see that, it's worth knowing, okay, that wherever you are in your form, it will put the question underneath where you're clicked. It's not too much of a problem though, because wherever you see these 6 dots, and I'll make that a bit bigger again, wherever you see these 6 dots, you can actually pick up, click on those, and drag questions into a different order. So don't worry about if you've made things in the wrong order. You can actually change them around, and we can click on delete if we've made extra things as well. Okay, so there's my second question. I just clicked on the plus sign. So this time I'm going to put child's class. I'm going to ask about the child's class. And this time, although it says short answer, I want to change that to a multiple choice. And there are similar questions there. You've got multiple choice and check boxes. Now, a multiple choice means that somebody can only select one answer. If you make it into a checkbox answer, it means they can select more than one. Okay, so that can be a useful tool to use. We'll talk about in a little while, but let's put a couple of classes in that might be something that someone's got. There we go. So that's my second question, remembering that I could put required on if I wanted to. Okay. And then it goes on, and I can just add other questions. So I might want to ask questions about your name and things like that. Okay, so it's very simple to add those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a section. So that first section really is the contact details. If I click on the add section, which is this one at the bottom here, I'm just going to switch a tool on for a second that I normally have on. So it'll make this a little bit easier. Seems to have switched itself off. Just putting on my accessibility tool just because it's a little bit easier to see. For some reason it switched itself off. I had a little bit of trouble. There we go. Highlight the mouse when the cursor's moving. That's better. That's the one I like. That's a little bit better. Don't know why it's switched off. It just does that sometimes. There we go. We've got our third question. So this time I'm going to put a section in. So if I click on the section, I can give it a name. So the section for section 2, the title is going to be communication. Okay, and a section is a dividing area, and I'll just show you what that looks like at the moment. So section 1 is the survey for parents, and then the next section is communication. So I'm now going to put another question in that section and then show you what that looks like. So this time we're going to put a different type of question. We're going to look at a linear scale, and these are really useful when you're using forms, because you want to be able to collect quantitative data. You want to be able to use those numbers to see, you know, what people are thinking about what you do. So the question is going to be, I feel welcome in my child's class. Okay, not actually a question, a statement. Okay, and then this one, the label for number 1 is going to be strongly disagree, and the label for number 5 will be strongly agree. Okay, so number 1 will mean they don't agree, and number 5 will mean they really do agree. And that's my question. So let's have a look at what that looks like so far. I've only put a few questions in, but if I go to the top of my screen and look for the eye icon, it's a preview icon. There we go. It's this little eye here. It will open up a settings for me. That's not what I wanted to do. I've clicked on the wrong thing. Here you go. There's the eye for preview. And that's what I want to look at. So I want to see what it looks like from a user's point of view. And this is where the sections come in. So you can see here that I've got my first section, which is about the survey and the child's name, child's class and name. And this is why I didn't switch the required question on, because I want to click on next. And what it does, instead of the quiz or the form being one long form, the sections break it up. So when it's going on to the next section, you have to click on next, and then you get the next section, which is like the communication area. And then every section you do, there'll be a next button. Okay, so I really like that when I'm doing surveys, so that somebody doesn't open a form and see that there's 15 questions and give up. If you show them just a small section, it can help you to get better engagement with the people that are filling it in. Okay, so we've put that one in. Let's have a look at environments. Let's look at a new section again. Okay, and then again, we can add some more questions. So I'm not going to worry too much about using the right types of questions here, because I haven't got an exact survey that I want to send out for parents, but you can sort of think about the questions that you want to do. But I want to show you, I'm just going to put something about which days of the week. Yeah, so what you should be able to see is when I put something in about days of the week. So if I'm talking, you know, I might be in a college, and I might be saying, which days of the week does your child or does your child attend college? So not just the schools, but in things like that where, you know, students are not attending every day, that might be a useful question to put in, which days of the week, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's my question. But notice that Google then gives me some suggestions. Because I've mentioned days of the week, I can add all of those days of the week as options. And then if I wanted to, because we don't attend on Saturday and Sunday, I could actually just remove Saturday and Sunday. So again, it's given me the option to speed things up. And notice this isn't a multiple choice. This is actually a checkbox question. So let me show you what that looks like on the preview. Again, I'll go to next and next again, because we're on the this one. When a user fills this in, they can actually select more than one response. Okay, so that's a really useful question type to be using. Okay, so if you're seeing anything, you want to ask any more questions, please pop it in the chat. I'm always happy. We've got time today to answer questions, so I'm always happy to deviate a little bit. I'm just, I've not got like a totally fixed thing that I need to show you. I'm going to show you lots of different things. So let's add another section, and this time we're going to call it after school clubs. Okay, so this section, and then we're going to add another question again. So everything is a section, and it keeps it nice and separate. So this one could be, let's put the question in. Please let us know which of these after school clubs your child would attend. And we can put circus, because someone mentioned this the other day and it got me all excited. Circus club. We could have book club. We could have science. And what else could we have? We might have tennis or something like that, maybe. Okay, so we've now put some after school clubs in. So we could just put the multiple choice like that if we wanted. That would be an okay question. Let's look at what that actually looks like. Got to get to the section. Okay, so that would just be a simple multiple choice, but that only lets people select one. Okay, so I could have made that a checkbox question, but I'm going to show you a different type of question. I might lose my responses in a moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a multiple choice grid. And multiple choice grid is really nice because it will allow you to let people make options on a range of things. So this time, row 1 is going to be yes, they would attend. Row 2 is going to be, actually, this has gone the wrong way round. I think that's rows and columns. Yeah, my columns and rows because I put the text in first. I'm just going to swap my rows and columns over. That's nice and easy. Okay, just copying and pasting. Otherwise, it'll be in a way that I didn't particularly want it to be. Because I added the words first, that's what it did. So now my columns are going to be slightly different. My columns are going to be, yes, they would attend. The second column would be maybe they'd attend, and the third column would be no, they won't attend. Okay, so what I'm just going to do, I'm going to pull this right to the top of the actual form just so I don't have to keep clicking through. Just doing some cheats at the moment. If I click on the preview this time, what you'll see, that question is at the top, saves me clicking through. But that's a really nice question type that you could use. So if you want to get some feedback on a range of things, the people here can still only choose one on a line. So I can't choose yes and no. I can only choose for Circus Club yes, book club maybe, science yes, tennis maybe, but it gives me an idea. If I'm trying to find new ideas to push out to parents or get feedback from parents, that's a nice way of making it one question rather than having all of those as separate questions, and that can really help you improve the look of your form. Okay, so I'll pull that one back to the bottom again. And then I just wanted to show you some things that you can do with images as well. So images I don't tend to see too much. I haven't really seen many images used in surveys that I've seen sent out by schools, other than when I've seen people sending out about their food clubs and things like that, where they want to show a range of new things that they're producing, and then they ask for feedback on, do you like the look of this, would you buy this, those types of questions. But I do see images used in lots of other ways in forms, and there's something you might be thinking of, oh, I know, I've got some images that I would like people to look at. You can start to think how that relates to you as well. So let's just add, we don't need a section, let's just add a question. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to say, we have some new dishes for the canteen. And then it might be vegetarian dishes. Please select the one you would most likely buy. Okay, so we're saying here's some options. We're thinking of putting these on the menu. So maybe you could tell us which one you like the look at best. So again, we're going to keep this as multiple choice because we want one answer from it. Or we could put it doesn't really matter, we could have check boxes if we want people to tell us if they would buy any of them. So they might want to click both because they think they're both nice, but I'll keep it just as a multiple choice for the moment. And then this time I'm going to just put the veg curry. Okay, so I'm just going to put the option of veg curry in. But what I want you to look at here, where I've typed veg curry, if you look along that line, it's got an add image icon. So if I click on the add image, what I've got there is the option to find the images if they're on my computer or if they're being taken by camera or if they're in my Google Drive. But I'm just going to go to a Google image search and search for a veg curry. Okay, so if it was something I was using in my school, I'd make sure we took our own pictures, but you get the idea. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how you can get that image in. That one looks okay to me. And then that image will pop into my form. So it's really nice to use this for things, okay? And the other one I'm going to put in is a vegan pizza. Again, I'm going to use the image search and Google image search vegan pizza. Not that that will look too much different to a normal pizza, but there we go. Let's double click it. And we've got two nice images in. So let's have a look at what that looks like on our form. So I'll move this question to the top again, just so that we don't have to click through all the pages again, because that's always useful. It's also good to remind you that you can move things around. Let's have a look at the preview again. And that's what the question looks like. So we've got some new dishes. Which would you most likely buy? And then you could have a blank one that just says none on there. Or you could leave that question so it's not having to have an answer. So if people think they wouldn't buy those vegetarian dishes, then they don't have to answer the question. Okay, so a nice way of adding your images to it. So that's a couple of things that we've added in now on our survey. So not the best looking form in the world because I haven't really got all the right questions. So actually writing the questions is a skill in itself, but you've got an idea of the different types of questions you can do. At the bottom then, I might just add a last question that then is a paragraph question. So a paragraph allows people to put more detail in. So I might add a paragraph questions. If you have any other comments, please add them here. Okay, so that's a nice one to do if you want people to put a little bit more in. Okay, so once we've added a question like that on the paragraph, there's some other little things that are a bit hidden. So if you look at this little 3 dots here next to the required, you get a few more extra options, more advanced options. If you click on the 3 dots and then put description, that will allow you to write some more detail about any of the question that you, the detail of the question that you want them to put in. So if you have any other comments, please then add them. Here is the question. But you could add a description saying, please let us know if this is a compliment or if this is a complaint or if there's, yes, you could put something like that. So, or please be as, please give as much praise as you like. You know, you could put things like that in the description. So try to get people to fill it in. And then if I click on the 3 dots, I've also got this response validation, and that's a really useful one that's on some question types. And that gives you some extra stuff you can do. So for instance, it lets you choose the length of something. So if I choose length, I can make them have a minimum character count or a maximum character count. So if I really want them to put a comment in, I can make this a required question. and put a minimum character of 50. And in the description, I'll say, please add a comment, so that they can't move on. I wouldn't particularly for that type of question. But there might be sometimes when you're asking for ideas and you really want them to try and put an idea, and you might say something like, give us your idea. It doesn't matter how small it is. Okay, just give us some ideas. But the maximum character for this type of form is actually really useful. So I might not want them to write 2 pages of text, but I could put a character count of 1,000 characters. So I'd have to work out how much that is. That's a few paragraphs, a couple of paragraphs. That's good enough. And that will allow me to restrict. So if they've started to type pages and pages, it will tell them it's too long and they would have to condense their answer. So that was found underneath the 3 dots here, which is called response validation. And that's a really useful one to add in. Okay, it's not one that I see beginners using very often, but it's a useful one. Okay, so that's really useful. We've got a few things on here that we've done, and we've created a survey. If we look on the preview, you can have a quick look through and see what it actually looks like. Okay, so it's getting there. It's a decent enough survey. So from that, let's have a look at some of the other things we can do. This icon here, you might not all see on your forms when you open it. These are form add-ons, and add-ons are things that you can add to give extra function to your Google form. Okay, so we're not going to talk about those today, but just in case you're wondering what that icon is, but you can add add-ons to your Google form and find things that will allow it to do other things. So for instance, that particular one that I've got added, if somebody completes the form and it's a self-marking quiz, like a teaching style one, that will give them a certificate. But there's lots of other things that will limit responses to your form and do all sorts of other little nice things that you might want to explore once you're used to creating a basic form. And then we've got the customized theme. So this one just allows you to change the colors if you want to. So it gives you a little bit, you can change the background colors to make them a little bit more contrasty. You can change your fonts. So if you want it to be more decorative, I don't tend to do this, I must admit, or more formal or more playful. You've got the idea. You can make it a little bit different. I tend to stick with the basic. I must admit I'm a bit boring when I'm sending out forms, but I think that looks clear and crisp. But this is the one that you might want to do. If you're working in a school or college, you've got your own branding, you've got your logos. So you might want to choose an image to put at your header. Now, being Google, it's already given me a load of images, banners that I can use. So if I want to use custom ones, if I want to use ones that are pre-made, I can just use those to make the form look a bit different. But if you've got somebody in your organization or you could go to something like Adobe Spark and create a banner, or Google Drawings and create a banner. Google Spark's a good one to try because it will give you a banner size and you can just create a banner the right size. Then you download that image and you can upload that image with your logo onto your form. So that's something you could look at to extend and make your form look even more professional. I've just chosen one that's one of the stock images for now, but I know schools might want to put their own in. So you get that from the themes, customized theme. And then you would just click on the image and you could upload one of your own. Okay, so nice and straightforward to do, but you'd have to make the image first if you want to do that. We've already looked at the preview. That's what the form looks like to our users. So let's have a look now at the settings. So these settings are really, really important. So we're not going to look at the quizzes setting. We might look at one little thing in here, but we're mainly going to stay in this general settings here. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. Okay, so first of all, you've got the option where you can collect people's emails. And if you collect people's emails, they will know before they fill the form in. So as soon as they open the form, it will say your email is being collected in this form. Do you wish to continue? So it might actually prevent some people from completing the form if they don't want to share their details. So sometimes it's better to actually add that as an optional question that says something like, if you would like a a response to your comments on this form, please leave your email here as a question, but you do have the option to collect emails. This is the really important one, okay? This restrict to users. Now, restrict to users in Chrome School and trusted organizations. Now, Chrome School is my domain, my school name, okay? So because if you're in, Ealing School, then yours might say Ealing School. If you're in, such and such college, it will say such and such college. That's your school name. It defaults to this option of restricting to users. Okay, so if I send this out to people in my organization to fill in, so if I'm an office member of staff and I want to send it to all staff in the organization, it's okay that I leave this restricted to the organization. What it means is that person has to sign in, okay, they have to be able to be in the organization. So we have to know they're in the organization. So they would need to be signed in. If you want to send it out to parents to get their their answers, you would need to take that tick off. So that is really important. If you are sending out to parents, you must take off that restrict, because you want them to be able to complete the form. Otherwise, they'll just get the form link, but when they get to click on it, it will just say they can't. Yeah, so Julia, the place to create a banner is Adobe Spark. Okay, I'll put that in the comments. That's one place. So there's loads of places you can make banners, okay? But the reason I suggest Adobe Spark is it's free and it's really easy to use, and it gives you preset custom sizes for making posts for Twitter, for Facebook, for banners. So you won't have to be like a designer. You could go in there and create something really good without having really top-notch design skills. So Adobe Spark's a good one for people in education, just because it's free and it's so simple to use. Okay, so making sure when you send this out to parents, you take this off. And this one here, which says limit to one response, that's really useful. So say, for instance, I think that I've got parents that might fill the form in 10 times, and that can really skew your data. You can actually click on this, and then they would only be able to fill it in once. But look what happens. Respondents will be required to sign into Google. So if you're using that with parents, you would have to know that they've all got a Google account to sign into. So that might not work. But if you're sending it out to your students and you know your students all have a Google account, that can be a good one to do. So if you're sending it out to students and you know you've given them all a Google account, you can actually limit them to one response. And then you've got a couple of other things here, which are things like that are not defaulted to, but you've got edit after submit. So that means the user could go back and change their answers. So you might not want that to happen. You might want to get someone's first reaction to something, but also it's quite nice if people can go back and change spellings and change their options in some cases. Again, that's going to be on your user case. And then you can allow people to see a summary of the text and charts that have been put in. So the respondents can all see the answers from everybody else. And you'll notice that isn't the default setting, because most people don't allow that. Most people keep that switched off. But there might be some cases where you're doing a poll type question and you want people to know, what colour are we painting the staff room, pink or blue? And you might want the people to be able to see what the voting's looking like at one point of the stage. Okay, so that's something you might want to think about. And then we can click save. So we've put our settings on to make that useful. Now I'm going to go back in just to show you again, settings. We were in the general tab. Presentation really is more about if you're doing it for like a quiz type thing, where you can do things like shuffle the question orders. That's more like that. But there's a couple of things in here that you can use for things that are not quizzes. One is showing a progress bar. So that will show a user how much of the form they filled in. So if you've got these sections put onto your page, it will show them how far into the form that they've completed. So that can be quite useful. And also show link to submit another response. So if you want people to be able to fill it in more than once, they can have this show link to submit another response. But if you take that off, then they can only fill it in once unless they go back to the original link and click on it again. So that's something you could decide to do. But this one at the bottom, the confirmation message, is quite nice. So this could be the standard one you can see is your response has been recorded, but you might want to put a slightly more personal response in there. And you might say something like, thank you for taking the time to complete this form. It will really help to enhance our after school clubs next year, or something like that. That seems a bit more heartfelt than your response has been recorded. Again, that's your choice about what you put in there, but just make sure that you know where to do it. Quizzes is just really about creating quizzes for teaching, so we're not going to cover that today. So we're nearly there with this first form, and then we're going to create a couple of other little simple ones to have a look at things that we could do. So the last thing I want to show you is the send button, and the send button again gives me the option to collect emails, so I get to see that here again. And then I can just simply use this in several different ways. So I can email it. So if I've got a particular email address that I want to send it to, I can just put an email or loads of emails pasted into there, and that will push it out to the parents. Now, if I don't tick this one, what will happen is people will get the form, but it won't be in the email. It will just be a link to the form. It will say, click on this link to see the form. So they click on the link, it opens the form. If I tick this one where it says include form in email, not sure I think why that's doing that at the moment. Okay, that's really weird. It's not letting me fill it in. Let's see what's happening here. I still not done. There we go. If I put my name back in and press enter, it's not letting me do it for some reason. I'll look at that in a second and come back to that one. Okay, but I can put the email address in. It will put a subject. Now, if this says untitled, that means you've forgotten to give it a name up here. So before you send it out, go back and put the name on. Don't ever send it out with subject untitled. It doesn't look very nice at all. But this is the really useful area that you might want to look at, and it's the area for the link for the form. So if you want to send out that form by putting it on a website, put it in a text, that's the link for the form. And what you'll notice is it's really, really long. It's a bit ugly looking, but you can shorten it by clicking this here, and that will give you a much shorter address for you to send out to people. Okay, so you can actually use it this way and shorten it and copy that link very simply and paste it into an email. You might want to put it on a website. You might want to put it on Facebook or Twitter, depending on what type of thing you're producing. I'm not going to go too much into this one, but this is, if you're creating a website and you understand what embed codes are, then this is the embed code, so that you can grab a piece of code that will allow you to sit this in a web page. Okay, I'm not going to cover that in today's session for beginners, but we have now got a finished form. Okay, and if you want to look at it, it's not the best looking form in the world, but you can actually have a look at it. I've put it on the chat there. If you want to fill it in, feel free, but don't feel you have to. There's a couple of other things under the more here that you might want to look at. So this is where people get a bit confused with Google Forms when they say they want to share it with somebody else. So if I want to give someone access to edit this, what I want someone to do is to click on the three dots and then add collaborators. So if I want to work with a colleague on this, they can actually add me as a collaborator so that we can both work on that form. That means we can both edit it, okay? Now, what I've seen people do, and I've seen this happen in lots of organizations, is people forget to use the send button and they copy this link and they send that out to parents to fill in. And notice this is the edit link, okay? So if you send this out, everybody comes in and starts editing your form. They don't actually get to fill it in at all. So it's really worth noting that you remember when you're sending it out to parents or users to fill in, you use the send. When you want collaborators, you use the 3 dots and you use add collaborators. Okay. Once you've got a collaborator on a form, they can actually make their own copy. So say, for instance, you've made a really good form for parents' evening, but there's a similar event coming up and one of your colleagues says, actually, that form nearly does exactly what I want. Can I make a copy? You just give them access as a collaborator and let them make a copy, or you make a copy and send them as collaborator. Okay, so there's several ways around it, nice ways of doing it. Let's close that down and make a new form. So this time I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I'm going to click on new forms and create a brand new one. So the second one I'm going to create today, I think is, let's have a look at what one. Yeah, okay. So this time I'm going to look at something like a branching form. So let's think about some of the uses that we might use. So just to get you to see if you're awake there, because it's really hard when you're doing webinars and you're not getting any feedback from people. So what have you used forms for in the past? I've used them for loads of things. Give me some ideas. Tell me what you've used them for. Just tell other people, what have you done with Google Forms? I've used them before I had Google Classroom, for instance, for people to upload homework to for students. I've had HR teams using them to collate people's certificates when they've done their Google exams. So there's all sorts of things you can do. I've had them for nominating Teacher of the Year and Support Staff of the Year. So for staff awards ceremonies, we've used them for book clubs, for reading journals, all sorts of stuff. So you can use it in lots of different ways. We just looked at a survey there. But if you want to put any ideas, the things you've used them for, please pop them in the chat while I'm doing this next form. But what we're going to do slightly different this time is we're going to use branching this time to allow people to move from one to another. Okay, so this time I'm going to put, sorry, all the subjects food, it's probably because I'm hungry, food order form. But just because this is an easy one to show how you can branch, again, I'm going to click on the untitled form to make sure that they've both got the same name. And then I'm going to put name as my first thing. So if someone's ordering something, notice the AI is kicked in again there. Make this slightly bigger for you. And then I'm going to make my first question, which says, would you prefer hot or cold food? So would you prefer hot or cold food? Okay, and you'll see that that's a really easy way to show you the branching. So I'm going to have the options as hot, obviously, and cold. So that's what I need to do. I want, when someone clicks on hot, to go to a section called hot, and when they click on cold, it goes to a section called cold. So to do that, I now need to make my sections. So I've made my first question, which is going to be the first branch. I now want to click on my section, add section, and the first section is going to be called hot food. And then I'll make another section, which is going to be called cold food. Okay, so I've got my question and I've got my two sections. So in the hot food now, when they go to that section, I need a question for people to choose their hot dish that they want to use. And I'm going to click on the plus sign. And this is going to say, what dish would you like? And then it's going to be multiple choice. And it's going to be black bean curry. It's going to be palak paneer. Oh, I'm getting hungry now. And it's going to be akara. Okay, so that's my hot food. And then I'm going to go down to my cold food section, click on it, and I'm going to add a question about the cold food. What dish would you like? Never type when I'm being watched. And again, I'm going to make that a multiple choice. And my cold things are not going to be quite as exciting. It's going to be pasta. It's going to be sushi. It's going to be sandwich. Okay. So there you go. I've got my question set up and now I need to do the branching. So this is where we start making this work for us. So first of all, if I click on the question where I want the branching to happen, this is where I want them to click on hot and go to hot. So notice I made the sections first because it's easy to do it this way. And I clearly named the sections. So I mentioned hot and hot food, cold and cold food. Okay. So now if I click on the three dots at the bottom here, you'll see that I've got a question or a section that says go to section based on answer. And I need to select that. So now when they click on hot, I don't want them to continue to the next section. I want them to go to the section about hot food. When they click on cold, I want them to go to the section on cold food. So now I've got this set up, okay? So nice and straightforward, I've got this set up. Now, I need to do one more thing as well. Once I get to this section for hot food, after the section, I don't want it to continue to the next section. Once they've ordered their hot food, I actually want them to be able to submit the form. And I need to do that the same for the bottom one. But the cold food one, it doesn't really matter because the cold food is the end of the form. So I just need to make sure I set that up correctly. So let's have a look at seeing what that particular response looks like. So if I go to the preview now, here's my first thing. Would I prefer hot or cold food? Hot. Click on next. It should go straight to the hot food, allow me to choose and allow me to submit. Brilliant. And I could submit another response. And this time it says, what food would you prefer? Cold. Let's see if it all works. Click on next. It should take me to the cold food. I fancy some sushi. And again, I can submit. So that branching form really worked. So you can use that for lots of different things. I've used it for a food order form, but it might be that you want to do a customer survey. And your first question might be something like, you might want feedback from parents or feedback from users of your department. And you might want the first question to be, is this a compliment or a complaint? And then when they click on compliment, they get a whole load of questions that they can fill in. If they're putting a complaint in, then there's a different set of questions. So that's another way that you might use your branching within an organization. Okay, let me have a little look and see some questions now. So I'll look at this one first of all. So Andrea said, how can I allow people that don't have Google Mail to upload documents in the form? So if people have got, you can send it out to any email. So it will allow you to send out to any email. And when they get the option to upload, they'll be able to upload from their device, so not just from Google. So you can actually allow people to do that. So you just need to send it out to their email. Obviously, they don't have a Google Drive, so they won't be able to upload anything from their Google area, but they can upload it from their storage area on their device. When would you use the file upload section when selecting? When would you use the file upload section when selecting the response format? Rachel, I'm not really understanding that one. When would I use the file section when selecting? I'll say what I think you want the answer, but you can clarify that for me. So the file response, file upload. So for instance, let's come back a bit smaller. I'll go to the bottom. If I add another question. Yeah, so if I add another question here, there is the option to, sorry, here, this one, sorry, I'm getting muddled up now. There is a file upload here which allows you to let people give you stuff back. So for instance, I've seen this used in schools by the library team when they get students in first for the first induction week, and they might say to students, right, there's a treasure hunt, go to this place, what's the sign look like on the door, take a photograph, upload it here, so they know the student's done it. I've seen HR teams use it to ask members of staff to upload any CPD certificates that they've done over the year. So that's another thing you could use it for. Anything that you want to gather from people. When I was managing a group of Google gurus in a college, every time they completed one of their Google exams, I asked them to give me the certificate, so I knew when it was about to expire in 3 years' time as a reminder. And just, you know, when management wanted to check if we've done it, we've got all that information. Yeah, so that's the file upload. You can use that to gather information from people. They can give you documents back. I've seen it used in finance, where order forms go in. So they have an order form on their website, or the order form is part of the form, and then they say, could you upload this receipt? And people upload their receipts with the form that they're filling in. There's all sorts of things you can gather from people using that file upload. It's really useful. So think about, what do I need to get through from people as a, as an office member of staff? What is it that I could be gathering from people? Obviously, be careful about asking for too much. Don't ask for people's passports and stuff through there, but you can get photographs and documents and evidence of things sent to you that way. So that's a nice way of doing it. Okay, so that's our second type of form, which is a food order form. So let's have a look. Some people give me some ideas. Let's have a look. Oh, Julia said that they've used them for lateral flow results. Absolutely, yeah, that's a great way, getting people to fill it in as, was your test negative? A bit like what the questions you're using on the NHS app, you can have for the school-based system as well. So that would work really well. Anne said she used it to see what events parent want to attend. Absolutely, that's a great use as well. I think that was the only other ones people have mentioned. So let's have a look. Let's move on now. So we've created a couple of forms. So I really wasn't going to do more than that. I mean, I've kept the forms simple, but I've tried to give you some ideas of how you use it, and I've also tried to give you some ideas of some of the little bits that you often miss. But let's look at the responses now. So just to look at responses, I'm going to bring in, I think, a document that I've already used. Yeah. So bear with me. I'm going to bring in a slightly different form. Okay, just one that I've played with earlier and got a few responses on. So this is a training booking form. So this is a sort of thing you might use in your school or your college. You might say to people, we've got CPD coming up, CPD day, put your email address, put your name, and what sessions would you like to attend? That's a typical one that we see Google Forms used a lot for. So that's a really simple form, but it actually really powerful. So let's have a look. Now we can see there's some responses being put in our form. If I click on that one, you can see the answers to your questions in several different ways. First of all, you can see a summary. And the summary shows you everybody's answers. So that's all 4 answers. That's all the names of the people that have filled it in. And then you've got things like this, which are a nice little visual of which events people would like to attend. And what people don't notice sometimes is that there is a copy chart option here. So if I want to copy the chart and just, I'm in incognito on this one, bear with me, and open up a new document, for instance, I can actually paste that straight into a new document as an image. Okay, so when you create something in Google Forms, you can actually use the charts, but they are images, okay, that you export. But that's something that's really useful to do. You might decide to have a look at that. Question, you can look at it by question, so you can see we can look at email question, we can look at the name question, or we can just look at the one question about the events people like to attend. And I can see 2 people have chosen Forms, 1 Sheets and 1 Google Slides. So that's a nice way of drilling down into looking at the data from one. Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much, Mark. Yeah, sometimes when you're delivering stuff, your brain just goes dead, but thank you for clarifying that. And then the other one that I like is the individual one here. Okay, so the individual one lets you look at every individual completion of that form. So that's the one, all the answers from Yasmin, then you've got all the answers from Petro. So that allows you to look at what an individual said. And then you've got another option, as well as those 3, you've also got the option to export your responses in Sheets. So you can actually click on View Responses in Sheets, and that will take you to a spreadsheet with all the answers in it that have been put there. And that will be continued to add to, all right? It's not going to be turned off at any point. It will just keep adding to every time someone completes it in. Now, I say that they can keep adding to it, but you as the owner of the document can actually click on this to turn it off. And that will mean that when someone clicks on a link to your form, it will tell them that this form's no longer accepting responses. So when you've had forms and you finish with them, it's really useful to turn them off sometimes. Make sure that you actually do turn forms off, so you're not continuing to get people filling old forms in thinking that they're getting to you, because you might not be. Okay. While we're also in that section, actually, it's worth noting we clicked on this little green bit to get the responses in Sheets. But also you've got some more options under these 3 dots again. Keep looking for these 3 dots in Google, because it's where all the good stuff is hidden. Okay, so for instance, we've got things like we could download all the responses into a CSV file that can be looked at in Excel or Sheets. I don't know why we'd want to print all the responses, but the option is there if you want it. If you want to reuse your form, if you've used a form for 2020 and you think, oh, it was a great form, I don't really want to make a copy, you can actually delete all the data out of it so that you can actually use it as a clean form again. So that's something that's worth knowing. But the really useful one here is get email notifications for new responses. So it's worth clicking that one. When somebody fills it in, then you will get an email telling you that somebody's filled your form in. So that's a great way of knowing if people are actually completing it. If you start to get too many emails, turn it off again. That's what I would suggest. So any more questions about forms and what you've seen so far? We're going to put a few more bits and have a look at a few more bits in a second. So just ask you if there's any more questions just yet. Okay, just take that out of the way a second. The one thing I haven't mentioned, first of all, is that you've also got this button down here, which is import questions, which is a really useful feature. So if I click on import questions, what that will allow me to do is reuse questions from other forms that I've completed. Now, when I was working with a couple of larger organizations, it's taken a little bit of time to come in. There we go. What it will do here, it will say to you, first of all, well, in your drive, these are all the forms that you've got. Which one do you want to take the questions from? So I might decide that I want to use this digital citizenship one. Still loading, sorry, still loading. It's taking some time. Okay, I'll have to come back to that if it's not going to let me. Okay, it's not letting me select for the moment. We'll come back to that one. Not a problem. Sometimes you get little glitches and then you have to come back to it. So let's have a look at some of the data we were going to do. That wasn't something I was particularly planning to show anyway. So please remind me where they are stored. Nicola, are you talking about your Google Forms that you've created? Okay, I think that's what Nicola's asking. So Nicola's asked, can you remind me where they're stored? So don't forget, if you're in Google, you're looking at your Google Drive. So to get to your Google Drive, you just need to sign into Google and then make sure that you open your Google Drive. And all I did was I made a folder to put my forms in. And when I create my form and give it a name, it's automatically stored in the folder that I placed it in. And if I want to move that, I can right click and I can actually move to and put it somewhere else in my Google Drive. So it doesn't have to stay in that place. I can actually just use the back button and go straight to my drive and put it anywhere else in any of these folders and just click move. Okay, so a Google form, if you are in your main area of your Google Drive and you click on the apps launcher and you create a Google form, it will just put the Google form in the main top level of your Google Drive, and then it's up to you to put it in the right folder. But the way I showed you from the beginning was to open the folder first, then we went to new, and then form, and that will put it in the folder that I've opened. So that's an easier way of making sure it's where you wanted it first of all. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the other bits that we were going to do. So we could have a look at, for instance, we could have a look at this data here. I'm just grabbing some data from a different sheet. I'm just trying to make sure I bring the right one across. Okay, so this is some responses in Google Sheets that people have filled in. Okay, and what you can see is there's some missing answers. People haven't filled bits in, or there's some data missing. If you've set your form up properly right at the beginning, you won't get missing answers, because if you've got that required question on, people can't miss answers out. But I wanted to show you a couple of things that are really useful once you've got the data, what you can do with it. So I showed you could really easily use it from Google Drive, and I've shown that you can actually look at it and put images into different things. I've shown that you can see in different ways as an individual question, but this is what it looks like when the answers are actually exported into a spreadsheet. So this is what it will look like if you've not done it before. And then the bit I really wanted to show you is right down the bottom, and it's this explore button right in the bottom, green explore button. And if you click on that, if you've never looked at it before, this is where you can do some really nice stuff without knowing too much about Sheets itself. You haven't got to be a Sheets master to be able to make it look nice. So for instance, the Explore is AI, it's artificial intelligence, and it allows you to do stuff with your data in a way that you would have to be quite an experienced user of Sheets to do. So for instance, I might want to format some stuff. So I might want to look at alternating colors, and I might want to make it look pretty like that. Already that data looks a little bit easier to read because I can see it better. Okay, or I can just take it out to gray. I might want to look at things like this one, which is a count of the clubs that people might attend, and I can actually insert this chart into my spreadsheet as well. So that's another nice thing you can do. But I wanted to show you what you can do with this data differently. Remember when we took the image from the responses on Forms itself, when I put it onto a Google Doc, it actually was just an image. but I can do something a little bit more fancy with this. If I click on the little 3 dots, hopefully you can see that. Let's take it up a bit bigger. Here's the 3 dots again, actually on that image. If I click on the 3 dots here and I copy the chart here, I could actually open up a new document again. So I keep being in incognito. So I've got a couple of different things open. This time I might decide to put it in a doc this way. And I might be putting this as part of a report. But look at the difference that I get this time. I get the option to either paste it unlinked or link it to the spreadsheet. Now that means if I keep it linked and I paste it in, if I change the data in my charts, in my spreadsheet, the chart changes in my document as well. So let's have a look at what that looks like. I'm just going to make that slightly smaller. Let's go back. You can see that it's a quarter, 25%. If I come back here and I change, what is this one? This is the circus school question. So let's find the circus school question. This one. So yes, maybe, yes, yes. If I change this one to no, for instance, and change this one to no as well, what you should see is on my chart straight away that's here, it changes actually in the document. But also if I go back to my untitled document, you'll notice there's an update. And if I click on the update, it will automatically update the chart within my document. Now you can do that in docs, and you can do it in sheets, and you can do it in slides as well. So if you're doing a presentation or a report and it's relying on data that's coming from a sheet, maybe that's being fed from a form or just a sheet itself, your data can always be 100% accurate based on information at that point of time. So there's no need to go, oh, it's updated, 6 people have filled the form in again, I need to go back and change it. You can actually do it live like that. So that's a really useful feature. Be interested, has anyone used that before? To see if that's something that's new to you guys, or... And then you'll see you've got some other bits that you can do here as well. Okay, so let's have a look at some more data. Let's move that one out of the way. Just waiting. I know there's a little bit of delay, so let's come back with that one again. Okay, there was something else I wanted to show you. Let's delete some stuff. Okay, just trying to see my bits and pieces here that I've got. Okay, so the other thing that you could do, we could make this easier to see answers on our page. So we can do something called conditional formatting. And conditional formatting will do something to a cell depending on what's actually written in the cell. So for instance, if I want to highlight all the bits that say veg curry, so it's really clear that people are liking that vegetable curry, or the fufu, if I want to do that, I can make that become a color when somebody fills it in. So let's have a look at how we might do that. So first of all, I want to select the column that I want to work on. So it's going to be this fufu and egusi soup that I want to actually highlight. I'm then going to go to the format menu and choose conditional formatting. And what that's going to do now is going to say, apply it to a range. So it's going to be the whole of this range here. And it's going to say, format this cell. And you've got a lot of choices. If it's empty, if the text ends with, but I want it when the text is exactly, and I need to have exactly the value in there. So I've got to have it exactly the same as it's written in my thing. Fufu. Make sure I put the actual capitals in as well. Yeah. And then I can say, when it says that, I want it to be a particular color. And I can click done. So you could actually put lots of different conditional formatting on your form. on your actual sheet once the survey's been completed, because that will help to highlight different areas of your data that you've got. So again, making it easy for you to see. And if somebody then comes in later and fills that in again, it will always be orange. But if they type something else, because we didn't say anything else, it will stay that particular color. So every time someone writes that, types it, that's what will happen to it, because we told it to in the conditional formatting. I'll do that one more time. Let's do it here for this one, for the circus school. So I'm going to highlight L. I'm going to add another rule. I'm going to say when the text contains yes, make it green, and done. So you can see you can highlight your data in a good way like that. The one I find really useful though, I'm just going to do said a couple of times, get rid of some of that stuff so it's a bit clear again. This time I'm going to highlight my whole table. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight the whole thing. And what I want to do now is highlight and show me if there are any cells with missing data in it. Now, I've only got 4 responses on this form, so it's not going to look that impressive here. But if you've got a very large data set, that can really help you to hone in on what's missing in your data. So I'm just going to highlight here for now my whole table. And this time I'm going to add another rule. And then I'm going to format the cells when they're empty. And I'm going to make them yellow if the cells are empty, and click done. And now, if I close that conditional formatting, I can actually see all the places where there's missing data on my sheet. And I think that's a really useful way of handling your data and making sure that you understand what your data is supposed to have there. Okay, let's have a look at Explore for this data, because every time you click on Explore, data will be slightly different. Okay, you could ask things like particular questions. So I might want a histogram of column H, for instance. I can click it and it will give me a histogram that I can actually insert into my chart here. And if you had a really complicated data set, let me bring more another one in. I think I've copied one here somewhere. Got lots of stuff open. This one, if I show you on this particular one, ooh, not that. Let's bring that one in. This one's a data set that's got a bit more in it. But again, stuff that's come from a form. It could have come from a form, or it could be just a data set there. But look at this one. This is sort of what a school might use for unauthorized absence, late percentage, behavior points. This is sort of school data, isn't it? And this would be hundreds and hundreds of students. But what you'll see with the Explore on this one, if I close it down and click again, with this one, I can actually ask proper data. So I might say, right, what I want to ask about this data is I want a sum of late percentage for each year group. And that will then put that in as a chart or as a pivot table that I can actually look at and insert it into my sheet, and it will put it on a new table. So look at that. It's given me a pivot table that shows me all the late percentages for the year, the sum of it, if that's useful. Okay, but you can do lots of different things with it. You can come back to your student data, and the whole point of the AI is that you can ask questions. So just waiting for it to come back in. Okay, so I might want the compare the behavior points for year group 11 and year group 7. So these are just ones that are in there, and it will show me here's the 2 bits of data that I'm looking at, here's the formula, and here's the chart. So here's what it looks like, and if I wanted a chart of that data, I can look at that. But what I love as well is the formula. If you're somebody that doesn't know how to do this, you could click on See Formula, and you can actually see what formula you would need to know as a spreadsheet user to get that data that we've just done automatically in Explore. Now, I'm not a Sheets user to that level. Some of you might be. But if you are, you'll understand how detailed that is and how quickly we did it just by typing in real English. You know, if I want to see all the late percentages for year 11, or for instance, if I want to, let's have a look at late, my cat's just started meowing here, late percentage greater than 10. Let's have a look at that. So I'm just asking it a question. Show me the late percentage, the student with late percentage greater than 10. And it will now show me all the students that have got the percentage greater than 10. So again, I wouldn't know how to do that in Sheets itself. I would only know how to do that for Explore. My cat's come to say hello. I'll just get rid of that. Cats and really can embarrass you sometimes. But what I want you to know is that in Explore, the only sort of limit to it is you understanding that you can ask it real English questions. So ask about the data. That's what it's saying. What do you want to know? I want to know the behavior points more than 60 for year 7. If you put that in, it will just give you all the students that have got that data. Okay, so there's some really, really great ways of using that and handling your data there. So if you've never played with Explore before, I would suggest you open up a spreadsheet and have a little go with it, because you can really, really get some good data handling with it without knowing too much about how to do it. I want to show you one more piece of data and look at a pivot table again for something that we've created. So bear with me. Here's one I mentioned earlier. Again, this is one for the training. Do you remember I said there was a training booking form where people have been booking into different events? Now, the email is all me. Obviously, I filled it in, but I've put different people's names and different events that they would like to attend. And what I want to show on here is that once people have booked into training, I want to know now, how do I look at that data without counting? How do I know how many people have booked into Forms? How many people have booked into the sheets? How do I manage that data? So I'm just going to click on the Explore button again, and it should give me the option to have a pivot table. Okay, so I should be able to do that. And this time it's given me a count of names, so I didn't particularly want that one, but let's click on that one and click on more. That's better. I want a count of the name for each event. So let's have a look at that one. This is what I want. I'll click on this pivot table and insert it into my sheet. It will let me put it on a new sheet or put it on the existing sheet. I prefer to put it on a new sheet, and I'll just make those columns a little bit wider so we can see. So we've now got which event would you like to attend and a count of how many. So I now know that Google Forms is the most popular one and 6 people have booked in. Okay, that's useful. But actually, I want to know who's booked in. I want not just to know 6 people, I want to see those 6 people. So that's where pivot tables are really useful, because you can pivot what you look at. That's what it's for. So if I now go to rows and add a new row, I can add the name of the person. And now it will show me in Google Forms, these are the people that I've booked in. Now, it said I had 6 people, but you'll notice Angus has filled it in twice and Petro has filled it in twice. So I've only actually got 4 people, 2 people filled the same form in with the same information twice. So that's always useful to know as well. And then I might think, well, okay, that's useful data. But also what I would like to see here is I'd like to be able to now email them. Have I got all their email addresses? Where can I see those? So I can go back to the rows again and I can add their emails. So this time I can see that I've got 4 people in my Google Forms, and I've also got their email addresses, which I can copy and paste into an email. Or, you know, if I'm getting a bit more adventurous, I might use something like Yammer to send out automated emails, so we can play around with that, do some mail merging. But you can start using this data in a really useful way. So pivot tables are a great way of looking at data in different ways without even knowing how to create a pivot table. You've done it through Explore. I've talked a lot. I've shown you enough, I think. I don't think I'm going to do any more than that today, unless people have got particular questions coming in. But I want to make sure that we come back to the presentation at the moment and actually look at some of the feedback and make sure that I get you to leave some feedback for this session, because what I want to say to you again is that this session was one of the very first sessions that we've put on for support staff. So what we'd like to make sure we do really is to get some feedback from you guys so that we can maybe run some more of these sessions on different topics. So what I'm going to just bring up is a banner very quickly, which will allow you to give us some feedback. So this is the feedback. If you'd like to go onto that and do that for me, I'll also pop that into the chat. There's a question in there that asks you what other sessions you'd like us to do. We only get to put on new sessions if these sessions are well attended. Well attended means attending live, but also them being watched again after the session. So please feel free to share the video recording, which you will have access to because you've got the link. You can send that out to colleagues and get them to watch it if you found it useful. And you can also fill the form in and give us some feedback. But I just also want to make sure that I give you the banner for where you can go to get future ones as well. So if you want to sign up for future webinars, this is where you can go as well. So it's bit.ly GFE UK webinars. I'll also just put that in the chat because I know it's easier to do there. And I'll just have a look in the questions. So I've got a couple of questions at the end here I'm going to get to, so that I've just pulled up. So I'm just pulling this across to have a look at. These are the questions I'm going to look at. Okay, so I've got one from Alison Smith. I work in a school office. I've been interrupted by calls. Is it being recorded? Yes, this is being recorded. Yeah, that's not a problem, Alison. It's being recorded, so you can actually go back at any point and watch this. Can a form go directly to another person before being submitted? For example, teacher fills in first part of accident form. Can the form then be submitted to their line manager for their input? There's been some updates for forms that allow people to continue filling in a form, but I'm not sure that one, Carly, I'll have to come back to you. I seem to recall that I've done that in the past in a particular way, but I think I had a third-party app. I'll need to check up on that one. Can a parent get a receipt for completing a Google form if they don't have a Gmail email address? Yeah. If you've, when you say can a parent get a receipt for completing it, if you've put on a little message at the end, remember I showed you that message area where you can say thank you for completing this form. That's their response. If they won't actually get a response, but there is a way of switching on. I'll put a link in here for later and show you how you can actually put that in so people can see and get their own response. They can do it. It doesn't matter if they haven't got an email, a Gmail address. It's the same. Yeah. Second or third time, so receipt would stop this. Yeah, you can, but also, yeah, it's just good training to get people to try to do it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. If they can get a response for it, we'll have a look at that. I'll put a link in this one later for you to show you where you can find that. So I think that's us for now. I think we've gone through everything I needed to show you. Please take the time to fill that feedback in because it's always really useful to us and we're always really grateful when people do that. But other than that, I'm just going to say goodbye. I'll bring up my slide deck again just so that I've got it here presented. And I'll leave the feedback link there for you. But other than that, I'm going to say goodbye, guys. Please, please, please come back at 1 o'clock and be with Darren. Darren's going to go a lot deeper into using Sheets, just Sheets. So he'll start off with basic, but he'll go into a lot more things. So please go and see his session because it's going to be a great session. Darren's a great trainer. Take care, everyone. Look after yourself. Bye.